So what made you jump to WWE from Mid-South? Because obviously we're probably making decent money in Mid-South at that time.
Yeah, especially after Junkyard Dog left. I wrestled Junkyard Dog a lot, man. And of course, Dog was a superhero down there in New Orleans. I mean, they do that "Who dat" chant. Who dat? Who dat? Who dat gonna beat the dog? Who dat? Boom, boom, boom. And I tell you, you'd be back in the dressing room, the whole building be shaking with people chanting that. And Dog was overstrong. He went up for WrestleMania 1, so that elevated me to the top spot down in Mid-South. And then WrestleMania 2 came, and Jake went up for WrestleMania 2. But like I said, Jake and I are good friends. And he was like, hey, you need to get up here for WrestleMania 3. And I made the move because that obviously was going to be the company of the future.
And your first feud was with Nikolai Volkoff. Do you have any memories of that?
Sure, of course. Anytime Nikolai would sing the Russian national anthem, I'd have a pair of bolt cutters, and I'd run down and I used to cut the microphone cord, you know, but you can't do it nowadays because everything is cordless mics. But I remember Nikolai would be singing the national anthem, and I'd run down and I'd cut the cord on him.
And you ended up winning the very first Royal Rumble, so how did that come about, and are you shocked that the Royal Rumble has gone on to become one of the WWE marquee events?
Yeah, well, you know, back in the day that we were running day after day, I went 54 days straight without a day off. So we did the Royal Rumble, boom, it was a great show, and I knew it was a big push for me, a big feather in my cap, but the next day was another show, so we loaded up and went to the... But I don't think anybody realized that the Royal Rumble would become one of the top 4 pay-per-views, or that WWE would become the huge worldwide powerhouse that it is. You know, I always joke with the NFL guys in Major League Baseball, I'm like, world champions, where in the world have you guys been? You know, in my 36 years wrestling, I've wrestled in every state in the Union, every province in Canada, in 30 different countries. It's amazing to the appeal of professional wrestling around the world.
And you ended up being called back for a recent Royal Rumble. Was that a good experience for you?
And well, actually, I even came back because WWF was my heyday, but I was on a talent contract with WWE for a few years, where I wrestled with Super Crazy and myself were tag team partners. Me and Eugene were tag team partners, so I wrestled the Spirit Squad and the Highlanders and guys like that. That's my old joke. In the WWF, I wrestled DiBiase, Orton, and Dusty. In WWE, I wrestled Dusty's kid, Orton's kid, and DiBiase's kid. So first I beat up the old man, then I beat up the kid. But it was one of my things I'm most proud about, that late in my career to still be on a talent contract at WWE. That was exciting. But even after I was off the talent contract just a few years ago, they brought me back for the Royal Rumble. And of course, any rub with the companies is very exciting. You know, I was just down at WrestleMania, and you know, to come out and still be remembered all these years later, it's humbling.
What's the difference between the 1980s WWE dressing room and the recent WWE dressing room? Obviously, less partying going on among the wrestlers.
Not nearly the drugs, you know. Drugs were very rampant back. It was the 80s, you know, and people try to compare you to a sports team. I said, no, especially in the 80s, we were more like a rock and roll band than you were a sports team. You see guys sleeping under the tables after being up all night, sneaking girls into the dressing room, stuff like that. Now it's much more professional. You know, kids come in, they got their laptops or their cell phones, and you know, they're all in suits. The drug problems out there, they have much more stringent drug testing now, and the kids are more professional, maybe even more athletic, but I don't think they have the characters that the WWF days had.